An episode of Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Guys, today I have Mr. Jared Ferrazzano on the podcast today. And this guy has a really interesting background because he started out as a real estate agent, but then he moved just like a year and a half ago into pre-development, entitlements. And I thought it would be so valuable for all of you guys to learn about how to actually force a huge amount of equity into your property, into your land by getting that project approved to build whatever it is that you want to build. And I thought, huh, I bet he has a lot of lessons that he can share with us today. So, Mr. Jarrett, how you doing today, man? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I am fantastic, man. So you have such an interesting background because a lot of people it's such a good story because a lot of people think they need a real estate license to get into real estate, but a lot of people don't realize like how many different aspects of real estate there really is in the world. And you have gone to sometimes as a real estate agent, you got to be really, really extroverted, but then as a developer in the talent phase, you got to be really, really organized. And sometimes those types of buckets of work they don't they require different personalities sometimes. So, man, just tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into real estate in the first place?
Yeah. So I started back in maybe even before high school, but in my high school days where I was interning with my friend's dad. And by interning, I mean he was a really close friend of mine, and his dad taught me a lot. And he kept teaching me about real estate and about pre-development, about doing flips. And he was doing small projects, like one or two homes, and he would flip them and move around. And I just really loved it. Since I was a kid, I always played building games. Like I played with Legos and like I always had like a thing for building. And so I continued to grow in that. And my brother-in-law, he got his real estate license. And so after high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was wishy-washy in school. And so I basically got my license. And I followed his footsteps and I did that for I think I've had my license for 5 years now. And so, yeah, it's been a while. So I've been doing that with him, and I think just over time, as I was doing it, I started to realize that I wanted to get more involved in the development side and in building the homes. And so, yeah, do you want me to any caveats or anything, or want me to keep going?
No, I think I want to hear from you what so becoming a real estate agent, that's a very common path for people to take to head into real estate. What
Mm.
would you think that is like one or two things that people don't really realize about what it means to become a real estate agent? Any sort of
Mm.
aha moments for you or gotcha moments that you just didn't expect after you started it?
Yeah, yeah. I think the first gotcha moment that like it seems obvious, but, like, when you're a kid, it's not, is, like, it is a full-time job. You know, like, when you
Yes.
hear the idea of commission roles and the fact that you just have to get a license, then you can get started, it kind of has, like, so much, like, glamour, like, "Oh, this is so easy, this is gonna be no problem." But it takes years to build that reputation and to build systems and to build, yeah, the reputation with a community where people respect you and they wanna sell their home with you or buy a home with you. Because a lot of people have an agent that they know of in their life. And so by doing business with you, they're basically saying that they trust you the most out of anybody in their immediate community of real estate agents, which is a big responsibility. And so I had originally just thought it would be no problem. I would just get business like similar to a job. And it wasn't like that at all. I assisted my brother who had a great reputation in the industry. He does divorce real estate, and he's one of the only certified divorce real estate agents in California.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he's a hardworking guy, and so I was able to kind of follow in his footsteps and learn so much from him. But getting clients on my own was extremely difficult. And the second thing, hmm, the second aha moment is being a real estate agent takes a lot of patience.
Mm, so
Um,
good.
yeah, because working from business to consumer, and working with a client who doesn't know the full scope of what you're doing with them, it requires a lot of patience and understanding on your end to convey the value that you're bringing to them and also have like a sense of security in what you're doing just because you enjoy it and because you want to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is so good because I love your first point because a lot of people underestimate how much time it takes to generate leads. It's
Mm,
such a huge time commitment, to use
yeah,
your words. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I'll just become an agent. I just got to tell my friends and family, and then boom, I get business. But you forget that they're putting the trust in probably one of the largest investments, one of the largest financial transactions that they might engage in through their entire life.
yeah,
And that's a huge amount of trust. And I loved how you said everyone probably knows an agent already. But for them to go with you, they have to trust you way more than probably the 50 or 100 real estate agents that they probably talked to in their life. It's
yeah,
just so good because I think you really open the eyes of folks that are thinking about going to real estate. And now they can sit down and really think clearly for themselves like, hey, is this right for me? Do I want to spend all this time generating leads? Do I want to spend all this time becoming essentially someone's emotional support, becoming
yeah,
someone's therapist throughout the entire transaction, right?
yeah, yeah. No,
All
it's
the
yeah, it's a much more emotional role than people realize.
Oh my goodness. I mean, props to you for doing it for so long and learning so much too, because that probably taught you a lot of patience. And I'm sure
It
that
did.
naturally helps segue into your development career. Now, sometimes people say the word development, like it sounds like a fancy word, but what does development even mean, Jared?
Yeah, so to develop land is to basically get it build ready for a home. Because like I do pre-development and I help with getting development prepared. And so
Mm,
development itself is basically the grading, the sewer water connections, the electrical work, and getting everything prepared to basically get up to the crescendo of getting the house going vertical.
that's such a good, simple definition. It's like you've been taught that before. Interesting. All right. So when you get a piece of land, it might just be like raw dirt. It might have a certain amount of a certain zoning attached to it. Where do you get involved with that process from the moment it's just raw dirt and that it's being considered to be built into a house, into a development, into another real estate building? What
Mhm.
sort of your role in that process?
Yeah. So they pull me in to do the entitlements and the due diligence. And so if they say, for example, they were to get a raw piece of land, I would basically look on title, see who owns it, see what zoning it is, see how big it is. I would try to get a survey done, or I would just look at an APN map to see what the site looks like and what the boundaries are. And luckily, I was taught how to do some CAD work. And so what I usually do is build like a preliminary site plan of just general ideas we have and what we would like to do with the property and how many units we would like. And from there, when we have a conceptual understanding of what we would like to do, and we have enough due diligence to know that it's possible, we present it to the city and we say, hey, this is our project. This is what we plan on doing. This is what we would like to do. And it's basically a pre-application review meeting. And in that meeting, the city basically tells us, hey, this is something you might face. We would already have known about easements, but maybe there's an easement we don't know about somehow. It wasn't on title or title missed it. This area is a flood control area. There's a certain endangered species in there. And so all the things we wouldn't really know from doing our own due diligence research, they may bring up and they may let us know like, hey, this is where we want the city's direction to go in. And your project does align or your project doesn't align. So it's kind of up to them.
Ooh, okay. So much to unpack here, right? So you get a piece of raw land, and what you do specifically is you try to look up the zoning right away. I just want to make sure I say it back to you correctly.
Mhm.
You try to look at the boundaries. Then you try to build a preliminary site plan, just figuring is that so you look at zoning. What are you looking at the zoning for? What are you trying to understand about the zoning?
Yeah, so in the zoning, I mainly look for the density that's allowed and how many stories you can go up and the setbacks. Because from that, I can go in the site plan and set up boundaries to see, okay, this is how big the site is. This is how much space I have for setbacks. And this is how many units I can put in with that and how much open space requirements, maybe some other requirements that are unique to that city. And I build my site plan based on that concept. And yeah, we go from there.
Interesting. Okay, and just to for people that don't know what a setback even is, what does a setback mean?
Yeah, so cities require proper or homes in general to be placed anywhere between 5 and 20 feet back from the edge of the property. And that's why when you see in a lot of neighborhoods they have such a large front yard area, it's because the city wouldn't let them like really plop the home right on the sidewalk. They need to have a certain amount of setback in order to build the home and to go with the look that they want in that area.
So it's almost like you got sidewalk space, then you got like a front yard space before you get to the home, and that's generally the vibe that they want or the look that they want for the city, right? That's kind of why the whole premise behind setbacks were in there in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other reasons that I'm not aware of. But yeah,
Hmm.
that is what I understand. Because if you go to a more high density area, the setbacks are smaller and you can get closer to the sidewalk and the buildings are taller. And yeah, so the zoning is actually really important. It basically tells you what you're allowed to build in this area unless you got some sort of variance, which isn't common.
Got it. Got it. And when you look at zoning, right? So obviously you got to understand what the setbacks were, and zoning teaches you about density. How would you recommend now that you've been doing it for like 1.5 years, right?
Mm,
How does someone best learn about zoning? What are your thoughts?
mm.
If you had to start all over again, how would you learn about zoning?
Yeah, it's actually super easy. I would basically just go to the city zoning map. And from that map, find where your project is at, and you'll see it'll just be like R1, R2, or some other code. And from there, pull up that city's specific municipal code and look up that zoning. And from there, it'll basically give you a whole book of requirements and setbacks and specifics to that zoning area. And so I would just print that out, review it. If there's any terms you don't understand, write them down, get the definition. Because that's what I did at the beginning a lot. When I first joined
Mm.
entitlements, it was a foreign language. I had no idea what anyone was saying to me. It was really stressful. But I
Dude,
wrote
I
down
bet.
everything.
Oh my goodness. Well, because I've read those zonings items too, and
Mm,
sometimes there's a lot of legalese in there
yeah,
where you're like, okay, what did I just read? Does this even make sense?
yeah,
And have you tried? I've tried at least like figuring out like, okay, maybe I can like copy and paste this, put into ChatGPT, and
yeah.
figuring out how I can understand this code better. What can I do with the project? Have you used any tools to help you break it down, or like in the beginning, you because ChatGPT wasn't as prevalent back then, like actually learning all the legalese and terminology? What was sort of your approach, and what would you change now?
Yeah, so it is crazy how much has changed in a year and a half because back then I didn't really started to use ChatGPT a little bit. And so I would write down words and I would use actually it's Copilot. I would use the AI that
Oh,
Microsoft provides. And I didn't really fully understand how it worked, but I would basically just ask it the definition of words. And I had a
smart.
notebook and I would write down everything. Any word I didn't know what it meant, I'd write it down. I'd write down the definition. And I would do this over and over until I started to understand the conversations more. But now what I would do genuinely is I'd basically do the same thing because writing is good for your memory. But I would just ask ChatGPT to give me a version that resonates with me because it knows over the time of your interactions with ChatGPT, it knows how you learn, like it knows your
Oh.
mannerisms, and it's pretty incredible what it can do. So I'd say in a way that I can understand, please explain what setbacks are.
That is so good. That's such a good little nugget there because I think it teaches people to take action now. Even if this is
Mm,
the first time you're learning about zoning, Then you go back and forth with ChatGPT and you say, "Hey, this is am I understanding it?" Like say it back to ChatGPT. Am I understanding correctly? Like how would you tweak it? How would you because
Yeah.
I like to put whenever I create content, I try to ask ChatGPT, hey, put it into like a fifth grade comprehension level or 10-year
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how most people understand it. You have fancy words in a building code. There's no way. That's probably why most
Yeah.
people never learn about development because they don't want to read through it. Probably the
Yeah.
reason why they didn't want to become a lawyer, right, Jared?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
All right.
that's yeah, that's actually a big concept for making social media content is you want it to be as digestible as possible. And you'll realize that's actually very helpful in life in general. People don't generally want jargon and they don't want all the big words and all the
Yes.
they just want a simple concept to just move forward. And yeah,
That is
that's what I've
so
learned that a lot.
that is so true. It's so different from what I learned in high school, where they teach you, hey, you got to BS this paper. You got to
Mhm.
stretch this 2-page paper into a 10-page paper, put in a bunch of
Yeah.
corporate speak in there. It's all a bunch of
Yeah.
garbage. If no one understands
Yeah.
it, what's the point of communicating, right? Doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. All
Yeah.
right. So we just talked about zoning, Jared. And obviously,
Mhm.
you can read the as is zoning. But how do
Mhm.
you look for opportunities in terms of, hey, what else can I do? Like, what if I rezone this property? Like, what kind of exceptions can I get? How do I get more units on this land? Like, how do you approach that process and figure out, sort of answer the question, what else can I do here?
Yeah. So I think what I would do in that case, and we've actually done this before, is you make a site plan with the requirements that they have in place. And I think something important that you should do beforehand is know the city managers and know the people who work in planning, the people who work in engineering. And by learning who they are and what they're about, you can know what direction that city wants to go in. Because if a city isn't interested in development right now, they're probably going to be pretty stiff when it comes to getting a zoning variance or even a change of zone. And so if I find out that they are interested in a zoning change, I would show them how many units I was able to get with the setbacks they have. And from there, I would show them another example of, hey, with this density and with this new setback, I was able to get this many more units. And we were able to do it in a way because you don't want to obviously compromise people's quality of life. And so if we're able to get more units in without compromising, we present it to them. We're like, hey, like we believe we could get more units in here. It's not exactly with your zoning setbacks, but in this area, you'd like to get more housing. And so it's literally, honestly, it's like a relationship.
So good. And I'm so happy you brought up you should go to the talk to the city first. Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard from developers like, I got this big bad project and everyone's gonna love it because I have this great vision and they can't wait to hear it. And then you go to the city
Mm,
and they're like, uh, this is what are you trying to do? Like this is
yeah.
no, like the city's not gonna go for this. Like stop it. Like you
Yeah.
don't have the votes, you don't have the support, you don't have the community support. It doesn't work. And
Mm,
had you just had that conversation up front, you probably would have saved yourself, I don't know, like weeks of work from looking at the
yeah.
property, doing the CAD drawing so you can build your preliminary site plan before you even get to the city. So that's
Yeah.
your recommendation. Is like talk to the city first, even when you're considering a piece of land. Talk to the city first, see what direction they're heading in, and then decide like, hey, is it worth my effort to go through looking at the zoning, building a preliminary site plan? Would you say that's your approach now, or what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I would say talking to the city first is definitely one of the best choices you can make because they know all about their city. You're basically just coming into their city to build something, and you may be doing the same in 6 or 7 other cities, but their whole entire job is focused on that jurisdiction. And so they always bring something up that we didn't know, and
Mm,
it's always an insightful conversation. And we most of the time can realize from the jump if that city wants us to build there or not.
interesting. Okay, got it. All right, this is so good. So let's keep on going. So we get that preliminary site plan back up. Usually, you walk into that pre-application meeting with that site plan. Now, is that preliminary site plan like required when you go have the pre-app plan or pre-app meeting? Excuse me.
Mm. So when you get to the point of a preliminary application review meeting, it is required. That's a little bit down the line though. The meeting that would be in the due diligence phase would be like a little earlier. It'd just be kind of an unofficial meeting. Because a preliminary application review meeting, usually you have to have a conceptual grading, a conceptual landscape plan, and the conceptual site plan. And getting all of those items requires already coordinating with an architect and a civil engineer and potentially a landscape architect. And so it's incredible how much goes into building a home. That was where I was really shocked. I couldn't believe how much went into it. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's not required for that very first meeting, but once it gets official, it is required.
Got it. And I love how you brought up from that initial meeting you have with the city manager, the city planning group, or the city engineering group, you can kind of understand what their stance is. And what kind of questions do you recommend people asking in that initial meeting, right? Not the pre-app meeting, but in that first meeting where you're just trying to gauge what is the sentiment from the city about development. What would you recommend are
Yeah.
some of the questions that they should consider or ask?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a that's a hard one to navigate. You don't just ask straight up. I mean, some people do. I think like each person has their own way of doing things and it works. I think for me, I guess I kind of just show them. I would initially basically just ease into it. I'd show them the site plan, say, hey, we're planning on
Mhm.
building this here. I would probably reference some facts from the municipal code so they know I put an effort and like I actually
Smart.
care and I have like intentions with the city. I'm like, hey, I noticed this in this code. I adhered to your setbacks. I did this and that and the other. And as I kind of build that rapport with them, I would then ask them, hey, what do you think about this project? What do you think about this area? Do you guys want us to build here? Is there anything going on here that we need to know about? Any requirements, any forms, any unexpected fees? And usually from that tee off, how they speak back is 100% indicator of if they want us to build there or if not.
Got it. This is so good. This is these are things that like they don't teach you in even like master development courses and things like that. Because because these are just such soft skills that you have to learn to develop over time to just understand and just be a good listener, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Right? Sometimes
yeah.
there's like no one-on-one course on how to listen, which is unfortunate, but I
Mm,
think that's such a great skill to have because you have clearly understand that when you go into these meetings you are prepared, Jared. And then after you
mm,
show your preparation, you show them that you want to listen to what they want, what they care from their community, because you understand that they're held accountable by their city
mm,
constituents, right?
mhm.
Now, okay, this is so good. So we got the initial meeting. And if the sentiment is positive, what do you do next, Jared?
So, that's it's so I'd say, are you familiar with the concept of like agile project management
Oh yeah,
versus like
yep.
waterfall?
Yep, I understand
So,
agile.
and like just to like, I guess to simplify it, like waterfall is basically like one, two, three. It's all very linear. It happens the same every time. And construction is, from what I understand, construction's pretty linear like that. You have key milestones in construction and
Fair.
it goes down a similar path. But entitlements is agile, where it's just abstract. Like each
Mm.
city has different things they want you to do, different forms you have to fill out, and it's pretty hard to say what I would do just off the jump. I guess what I would initially want to do is get the track map. I'd get the process started of getting the track map recorded if it isn't already recorded.
Interesting. Why do you need a track map recorded? What is that for? What is a track map?
The track map is basically the legalizing the parcels that you'd like to put on this lot. So if it's a neighborhood of, if it was originally, say, like a 3 acre lot and you want to put 25 homes on it, the parcel map shows where the streets are and actually legally puts it in. So that way each home is its own parcel now, rather than just being one lot previously.
Got it. And just for people that don't understand that, right? You're essentially talking like, hey, I got 3 acre piece of lot. It might just be like one lot with like one set of boundaries. But if you were just
Yeah.
trying to subdivide it and build 25 homes and sell them as 25 individual homes, then you need to clearly outline which home is where and what are the borders of that home specifically. Did I say that back to you correctly? Did I miss anything
Yeah.
for you? Okay.
Yeah. And getting that approved is later in the process, but I mean, you start with the tentative track map, and that's kind of the first little hurdle. And in that, you're getting your conceptual landscapes done, you're getting your conceptual civil done, you're getting some utility plans drawn out. And that's kind of like the first little win. But once you get that final track map recorded, that's kind of the signifier that this is happening. We're going to build this.
Got it. All right. I know there's a lot of work in that bucket of in that milestone in of itself already. So let's kind
Yeah.
of break it down, right? So, all right, you get some approvals, you have a conceptual site plan. And what is sort of your role working with the architect, the civil engineer, or even uh, the utility companies, right? Because you have to start thinking about how do I get water? How do I get water, sewer, electric out to the site? So tell us a little bit about how you wrangle all these resources to start moving together towards that process of getting that track map, I mean, the tentative track map and getting the project approved. So tell us a little bit about how much coordination there is to get everybody together.
Yeah. And so that's actually probably the whole role is really just coordinating this like legal circuit. um, and I think how I've done it and how it's actually, I've really enjoyed entitlements is I've made it's basically a racy matrix that's specifically for real estate. And at my first role, my mentor and the person who led the team I was on taught me the concept of a racy matrix, which was invaluable to me, genuinely. Like he was super patient with me. He taught me how to do it, and from there I kind of just took it and ran with it. And I wish I could show you, but I basically just have a racy matrix where every item that is in California entitlements, not every item, but almost every item that comes with California entitlements is on it. And I have color coded tiles to track where something is and whose court it is in and what date that happened.
Oh, this is so good. I love it. This and I think this shows people in order for you to be good at this, you have to be super organized and you have to be
Yeah.
super on top of it because it sounds simple when you say it like, oh, I got to coordinate everybody. But when you need every piece to fall in line together to get to that point of approval, you really can't drop anything because you drop something, all
Yeah.
of a sudden, all let's say you forgot to inform the power company. That might add like 3, 6, 12 months to your timeline if you forget
Yeah.
about something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously there's so much coordination, Jared. Like, were there any mistakes that you made, or were there any problems that came up during the entitlement process that you can share with the audience today and how you overcame those problems?
Yeah. I think one problem, well, there's honestly, so the whole role is just putting out fires and fixing problems. But I think one problem that I was able to catch and or my team was able to catch was we were processing because you're processing all the plans at once and they're all being done by different teams and different companies. And so our civil plans, the footprint that they had for the architectural design wasn't up to date. And we were almost at the point of the civil approval. And so to get it reapproved after we had it approved would have cost another review fee. It would have had the potential of bringing up other problems that we didn't want to bring up again. And so we were able to coordinate with the architect to, hey, would you mind sending us a new footprint so we can update our civil plans? And I wouldn't have noticed that from the get-go. But luckily my team saw it. And that's one problem where it's seems so small, but on an official construction ready plan, it's big because the team out there is reliant on that plan as the gospel. And so they're building based on that plan.
Whoa. Okay. Now, just for people that don't understand, when you say footprint, it sounds very straightforward to you. But what does when you say the footprint for the architectural design was not up to date? What does that mean?
So basically, the civil plans are the plans that show the grading of the land and the slopes and all the sorts of things that are underneath the home. And in that, they show the actual outline of the home itself and how it's going to sit on the pad. And so when that isn't up to date, it basically just makes it confusing because the architectural plan will show one thing and how the home's going to sit, and then the civil plan shows something else. And the civil plan is law. However, the foundations are laid is how they were laid. And so it's really important that the architectural and civil align, which seems like a very simple thing that just will happen. But because they're from different companies, and sometimes the architect takes a lead on coordination, and that's pretty helpful when they do that because they're able to make sure that their plans are up to date with everybody. But whenever they put that responsibility onto the developer, you have to be the one to make sure, okay, everyone's plans align. And that is almost impossible because there's no perfect set of plans. I think that's like something that should be that should be said. There is never going to be a 100% perfect set of plans. There's always something tiny that misses everyone's eye somehow.
Interesting. Okay. So the footprint is actually okay. Where's the foundation? So I'm going to use very simple terminology. Maybe you agree that, hey, the home will be built 10 feet from the curb, right? That's your setbacks or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's where the quote unquote footprint or the foundation will be laid. And that's where the house will be built on top of, like just using easy numbers, 10 feet from the curb. But for some
Yeah.
reason, the civil engineer plan might be 9 feet from the curb, while the architect's plan is 11 feet from the curb. And that's where you mean that they weren't up to date because they didn't line up together. Did I understand that
Yeah.
problem correctly?
Yeah, and that would be a huge problem. That one's like uncommon, honestly, like to have a mess up that big, but there would be that would be a huge mistake. But I think something that happens more often that is would be harder to notice is the pad it's there the basically where the home is going to go itself, the elevations are off and the architectural plans aren't updated based on the civil plans. And so they lay the foundation and they have different elevations on it, but the actual
Oh,
home doesn't sit on it perfectly because it has to fit perfectly in order to work.
which makes perfect sense when you're building a home that needs to have a solid foundation. All right, I
Yeah.
love that. So now that we've gone through some of these issues, so that was one big problem, right? And then you mentioned like there's never a perfect set of plans. But tell us another problem that might come up during the entitlement phase.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem I think I've been able to put out and the most value I bring to the entitlement space is the fact that I have that project matrix because I keep track of everything that's happening in the project. And in entitlements, things get forgotten all the time and things get
Oh,
lost and things get basically pushed off until the very, very last moment. And then once they like rear their face, it's always bad. So I try, and that's why I love doing my project matrix because I bring every item up to the city initially. I ask them exactly what we're gonna need, why we're gonna need it, when we're gonna need it, and from there we can make a more accurate performa. Because without knowing what's gonna happen, there's so many hidden fees in the development process that either get tacked on in the front, get tacked on in the very back. And by having it all mapped out from the get-go, so there's no gray area, no confusion, it changes the way it's done.
I love that. And you make everybody feel so much less stressed, man, when they know you're on top of every single little item in the entire phase. And Jared just giving you guys that are listening right now like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of value just from saving on the delays, not missing out on any items that need to get done. I mean, this stuff is so important. People underestimate how detailed you need to be in development. Sometimes people are like, oh, I got a piece of land. I'm just going to go build it. And they're like, that's it. I can set it and forget it, which is so far from the truth. And then they think,
Yeah.
oh, if I hire an architect, the architect will handle this. But then they're like, the architect doesn't handle utility coordination. The architect is just there for X, X, and X. Like that is the engineer's responsibility. Like just clarifying the roles is so important up front with your entire team. And that's why you have your RACI matrix. You have your entire set of X item has to be handled by this person, has to be informed by this person.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
there we go.
I got
All right,
lost.
I'm back. No, I'm back. Are you still hear me?
You there, Kent?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? 1 second. 1 second. Can you hear me? 1 second. Huh. Why did I get disconnected?
Hello, hello.
I can hear you. Hold on 1 second. It says that's recording.